Hello, and welcome to SG Squared. Steve Gladen, the global pastor of small groups from Saddleback Church, pulls from his over 25 years of experience to encourage and equip listeners like you to lead small group ministry. So let's listen and learn together.
So we'll jump into the first part of our Inside Saddleback show, and that is the Saddleback Scoop. And this is kind of giving you a little taste of what we're experiencing, what we're learning in the Saddleback world. So Steve, let us give it to us.
Yeah. So I want to kind of go through some different parts here on this episode because I love where Pastor Rick has been moving the staff and moving our congregation. And it's been relevant enough to share with you from this point of view that when we're talking about refreshment, one of the great learnings that we've been sharing with people, and some of you may have already known this, and so you're more brilliant than where we're at. But so often we're trying to get more spiritual refreshment to replace some of the other refreshment areas that it's just not going to work. And part of one of the realizations is that spiritual refreshment will not refill emotional or physical emptiness. And so we've been spending a lot of time in staff, and then also with our people, is looking at more Bible study or more scripture memory. It's great, but it's not going to replace sometimes the physical or the emotional emptiness that you're feeling through COVID. So we've got a great rundown to give you in just a moment. But also understanding that in refreshment is recalibrating just a little bit. One of it is because our culture is driven by fruitfulness. I mean, we are driven. We have margin in our heart, but boy, do we just eke drivenness out of us. Obviously, that's why we're a purpose-driven ministry. But one of the great recalibrations we've done, or a pivot we've done, is we've been focusing a little bit more on faithfulness than fruitfulness. And it kind of helps people understand that, when refreshment and depletion is down, when you've lost so much due to COVID, and there's, you gave us our list, but, there's other people have different lists, but we all have lists of what we have lost. And when you focus people on saying, hey, don't worry so much about fruitfulness, but keep people focused on faithfulness. And faithfulness is simply just, I do the right thing even though I don't feel like it. Part of it is, when you're in training and people maybe, feeling depleted so much more quicker, is just helping them understand that, hey, let's just stick on, the faithfulness part, but then let's also calibrate it by understanding, and this is the second half to that phrase, is that people are, when we survey our staff, they're just emptying a lot quicker. And I run at a higher RPM. I love that about my how God has wired me, and I just love to crank all the time.
What's it like to not sleep?
It's I do sleep. I just get it in different pockets in different places, but it's but people do say that they're emptying a little bit quicker, and so you have to understand when you're feeling that way. You almost have to ask yourself, people can handle a lot if they know the purpose of what they're dealing with. And you see this all the time in the medical world, when people are suffering with an ailment, when they go to the doctor's office, if they know what it is, at least they can deal with it a little bit better than if you're at the doctor's office and test after test after test after test come out, it's not this, but we're not sure what it is. And so when you don't understand, what it is, then it's harder to deal with. And in this pandemic, we have found that people have been emptying quicker because of this whole piece of, we just don't know what it is. And in coaching, one of the things we've been talking about, especially with our staff, is that, a lot of times when to throttle up and throttle back because the end of the season of what you're dealing with. But in this, we still don't know the end. So how do you push ahead? How do you throttle back? It's all a little bit of a mystery that's out there. Sociologists did a survey, was a study on people, and they would hook an electrode up to their hand and they would administer pain to them. And when the person who was conducting the test would start to administer, the electrode and throttle up the pain, people would tap out far quicker than if they had the control to shut it off. So when they knew they could shut off the pain, they found out they could handle 50% more pain when they were in control of it than when somebody else was in control of it. And you start to look at COVID in this time, what we're noticing is that, even in our own staff, we're not in control. We're not in control, and that's frustrating for us, and it can wear us down. So we're gone through a number of things, understanding that spiritual refreshment isn't the only thing that we've got to work on. We also look, we're focusing a little bit more on faithfulness and fruitfulness. We're understanding that people are emptying a lot quicker. And then Rick just we're going to put this in the show notes for you, but Rick just did a great talk to our staff on just, what to remember when you're feeling empty or low. And I don't want to consume a whole lot of time on the show with this, but he's got 6 things that I would just encourage you to look at the show notes, because it's pretty self-intuitive. But the beautiful thing is that, again, people need to be taught on what they are experiencing and put handles on what their feelings are so that they can deal with them. So a lot's been happening with us at Saddleback. It's not the astronomical numbers of, what we've talked about or what we've been doing through COVID, although a lot of that has been happening, but it's been a very reflective time on how do we replenish and how do we bring refreshment to our staff and to our congregation in this time of so much being missed.
That is your Saddleback Scoop. Like Steve said, make sure and check the show notes for the 6 things on what to remember when you feel empty or low. It's really good. On to our Network Nugget for this show. And this is, again, what's happening in the small group network world. And as you may have heard, we recently launched our first ever online training course called Align, Learning Small Group Ministry Essentials. And it's been so exciting and rewarding to see so many people going through this course and not just completing it, but sharing testimonies of what God's doing in them and for them through this course. And so we wanted to share one of those for you. And this testimony is from a friend of the network named Rita. Rita, you are awesome. We love your passion in the Facebook group. And she's just all over. Have you noticed that?
I have. I have not met her. I couldn't pick her out of a lineup, but man, she has got energy flowing through everything she does.
So Rita, thanks for sharing this. But here's what she says, quote, "This has put into words everything," all caps, "I've been feeling in my spirit, as well as what our pastor has been wanting for the last 20 plus years we've been a church. It's a genius set of how-tos that will enable us to move our church forward, to move God's kingdom forward," end quote. And again, that's from Rita in Norton Shores, Michigan. Steve, isn't that great?
Rita and I have corresponded that, she's in a state of the United States that's north of, other parts of the states of the United States. So, she's a diehard, the team up north, in our college football world. So, and, what can I say? If you love the person, you hate the team they root for.
So thanks again, Rita. And again, if you would like to find more information about our Align course, just go to smallgroupnetwork.com/align. You can watch the free course introduction and see if it works for you. But Steve, there's something else cool that's kind of popped up out of Align, and that is this whole cohort strategy thing you've been doing with churches. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's and again, I just want to everything we're going to focus on the Network Nugget here is all trying to bring back the refreshment piece for you as a small group point leader, and I'll kind of tie it together when we get to the leadership learning piece. But I wish it was my idea, but Philip down in Australia, I met him when I was there a couple years ago. He helps work Church of Christ in that denomination. And it's one of those things where he goes, "Hey, I'm just going to do a cohort with this a course." And I'm like going, "Great. I have no idea what he's talking about, but go ahead." And he worked out the frame, and we're we're working that now in South Africa, and we're trying to start one up in Europe. And so it's an exciting piece. And if you want more information, like you said, Derek can get to you, or you can get it from the website that Derek gave us. But yeah, between, Align and the other new courses that we have that we're filming and that are in post-production, those are all designed to give you some refreshment just in the intellectual side of who you are and just pouring into you.
Yeah. So, Steve, speaking of new courses, we've got Accelerate. That's in the hopper and will be released hopefully in the next few months. We've also got a course coming out soon about online small groups and one about how to do kids small groups. So look forward to that. Also coming up in 2021, Steve, we're going to be in 10 cities as of now doing physical Accelerate events and physical Align events.
Very cool. I like that. It scares me in one way, but I hope I'm not on every one of those planes. But I know Daniel Thomas, who is our director of events, sent us something, and those are already fired up on the conference part of our website. And it's just exciting that you can look at that and see which one we're coming to close to you. And he is also showing that we have 4 more in the hopper. So we will do 14 cities probably in 2021 in, just in alignment with the Big Ten, who has 14 teams not doing anything this year. So we decided we would do something.
We're going to come out of COVID with a bang in 2021. You're going to be traveling a lot, man. Get ready.
The teaching team will also be traveling a lot too. So thank God for those certified trainers that are out there. Hey, but another cool thing about Refreshment is we stumbled into the coffee biz. And so it's very exciting to, kind of partner with No Coffee Better or No Better Coffee or just know something. But Daniel Thomas, give us the correct title of the biz.
No Better Coffee, KNOW, no.
No Better Coffee. I just know I like to drink it. But anyways, yeah, the network has 4 special blends that are out there for you that'll be coming up on the website soon. So when you're trying to get your coffee fix, there's no better place than to get it from the coffee beans that we get roasted from around the equator to our great roaster that we have into the products of the 4 blends. I'll leave it up to you to get onto the website, but we do have 4 special blends that are coming out that are very small group network related. So we're going to quench that thirst that you have in refreshment for you.
Yeah. So be looking on our social media and website in the near future for all of this to appear. And basically we're going to put community back in coffee.
I love it. Boom. And another piece of refreshment the network is working on is for our Espanol audience out there. And we just pulled the trigger and we're just about finished with a new updated website for them. And also working towards the Align that is going to be in Spanish and the workbook that'll accompany it, along with my latest book is coming out in Spanish, and all 3 of them will be up and available through Kindle Direct. And so we're excited that we're able to get the resources out to people around the world that speak the Spanish language. And so love that Latino fire that I'm married to. So
that is your network nugget. On to our leadership learning. Steve, what do you got for us?
Yeah, this is just a great refresher. If you haven't worked with it, it's the replenishment cycle that really fits in well with our refreshment theme that we have going. But they work off an acrostic called PIES. And I mean, how can you not help but love?
I like this acrostic.
I know a replenishment cycle that talks about PIES, and I'm like going, oh, this is finally I can do something and with that, but it's not the type of pies that I like to eat. But anyways, what it bases off is the acrostic of PIES. And this kind of helps connect the dots between the Saddleback Scoop and some of the Network Nugget things that we're working on. But it's good for us to be thinking through this. And the P stands for, as you're looking for replenishment and you're looking for refreshment in the midst of a desert time of trying to go through COVID. The P stands for physical. What are you physically working on? Now, when COVID first came out, you heard me on a previous show just saying I'm trying to work on social distancing not from people, but from my refrigerator because I'm at home all the time. And, why not eat if I'm just not doing anything? And so, I had kids that go to college and we're like working on them, say, hey, don't get the freshman 15. And it's like, and my wife's like going, hey, to me, don't get the COVID-19. And so, I'm not quite there
Oh, you
yet.
got it.
Oh, dude, come on, man. That sounds like hurt. But so there's a physical side. And so ask yourself the question, how am I going towards movement? Because if you are wanting to, work on your refreshment side, there has to be a physical side. Our bodies were meant to move, I'm like the worst, coach in this whole thing. Cause, I consider, every day I do at least one sit up when I get out of bed, and I do one crunch when I lay back into bed. And that does not count. But my wife and I have goals on, the number of steps and movements and, a couple videos that we're working through in our weight training. With that, I would tell you the video we're watching, but my manhood is on the line. But I'm doing my wife's course and I'm just like going, crap, I'm terrible. But anyway, so there's a physical component that you got to be thinking through in this COVID-19 to keep yourself replenished, to keep yourself, refreshed. The next thing is the intellectual side. And part of one of the things that we started this, all four of these podcasts was we're trying to stimulate you and go, okay, where are you learning intellectually? And that's the beauty of what Carolyn brings and what Bill brings and what Nick brings is that they're completely different angles from our show too. And so it's one way that you can work on those intellectual sides. And I was just listening last week to the Reading Lens and just going through, the book on, daring, I want to say daring faith.
Greatly.
Yeah, daring greatly. And it was one of those things where, I'm just, outlining these chapters they're going through and just the number of things that were commented and taking notes and going back through the book and going through, okay, these are nuggets I can pick up. And so it's just, again, you got to ask yourself, how are you stimulating yourself intellectually? And I'm not talking about just your quiet time. It's a very important piece. I'll kind of play into the next piece. But on the intellectual front, how are you pushing yourself? One of the reasons why we're designing the courses is, again, to help on the intellectual front. No matter where you're at on this planet, you can start to work through those things and try to maneuver through it. So, there's the intellectual side. The E stands for emotional. And with that, you got to say, how am I taking care of myself emotionally? A number of great books. There's one book called A Lamb's on the Edge, and talking about so much about people in ministry, how we get on that edge, and before we know it, we're falling off the ledge. And it's important for us to look at how the Sabbath is playing in. Rick talks a lot about how you need to take time daily, how you need to retreat weekly, and how you need to retreat annually. And he's got it said in a much more pithier way than what I just exploited. But there's a lot of play in the emotional side of being, how to say, daily, how are you getting into that time where in your quiet time, you're retreating from this world, weekly, how are you taking your Sabbath? And a lot of us, with COVID, we've been off for the weekends. Much of the United States is firing up their weekend services or have been in their weekend services. So you're not having the weekends off like we're still having in California, which may go through to the end of the year. Don't know. But there's also the part of, how are you retreating? And, Lisa and I are just planning our time away in October, and we're going to spend about 10 days away and just, retreating that way. So you got to be thinking through the emotional side, but it's almost like you got to get that hands-on detoxing that will help cleanse your soul. Rick had a great quote this past weekend. He was talking about how so much of our time is getting consumed with the election year coming up in the news media. And I don't care what channel you listen to, it's just going to take you down a rabbit hole that's not going to replenish your soul. It's not going to give you the refreshment that you need. Social media is not going to do it either. And I know Rick was holding up his Bible when he was talking about this, and he's like going, Facebook is not going to help you in replenishment. And he goes, why don't you get your face into this book which he was holding the Bible, versus, getting into Facebook and how much time gets consumed on social media with that. But there's the emotional side. And then the other part of pies is the spiritual side. And this is where we've been hit so hard. Kay was sharing with our staff. Kay is Rick's wife, is sharing how in her quiet time, she was just reading so much about how singing plays a part in our spiritual health. And that's one of the things we've been robbed from a lot is corporate worship together with that. But you got to be looking at, the spiritual side of who you are that ties in with the emotional. I know those two overlap quite a bit, but, with temple courts taking on different shapes, like for California, it's not shaping at all that much, but other parts are. You've got to be looking at your spiritual side and how it's aligning with the emotional piece of who you are. So part of that replenishment cycle is pies. You can probably Google that or look it up if you want to go deeper on each one of those letters. But again, it's something in your leader time that when you're trying to talk to your leaders, before you give them another Bible study or another passage, which is great, start thinking through the P, the I, the E, and the S of how you can bring leadership development into your team.
That is your leadership learning. And Steve, I wonder how many people who listen to this show are going to end up eating pie tonight after that leadership learning.
I got to confess, you might want to email me. Lisa and I are going to be going down to Julian, which there's a place down there that makes the most incredible apple pies. And, I'll be taking your order and just give me your Venmo account and I'll bill you for all that. But picking them up and they're tasty.
All right. So on to our trending topic. We're talking about refreshment in this episode, and we want to share with you 5 emotional refreshments that you, your leaders, and your small groups need. And we're going to jump right into number 1, which is support.
All right. And that is everybody I meet needs support. Now, these 5 emotional refreshments are things that you need to be thinking through for your small group leaders as they're looking at their people, as you are looking for the infrastructure of that you've put into your small group ministry, and as you're looking for yourself. So as Derek was saying, the first thing right there is everybody I meet needs support. And it's interesting that this epidemic has caused an outbreak of loneliness in people. And even as you're engaging back in, people are starting, as they're meeting physically back together again, they're assessing all the damage that has happened from COVID in the emotional support side of it. And, this is why COVID has been so deadly to our culture and to all around the world, because support has been fractured. Genesis 2:18, a scripture that we love in community, it says, it's not good for man to be alone. And that scripture was given to us in the Garden of Eden, the most perfect, sin-free area known to mankind. And God was saying, it's not good for us to be alone. So even in the most perfect environment God made, he's saying, we're not designed to be alone. And so often we used to be born into community because of our family structures. But because of mobility, community is something that you choose. And so when you're looking for support, people are they're choosing it. They're not born into it. So it's not already there for them, but they're traveling around and there's so many things. And I could run through the 5 things that we've taught before on other shows about what has fractured the support that people have had in the past generations. But so you have to be thinking through right here, okay, so if people are choosing community, how can I help them find community in your church? And so you got to be thinking through those strategic pieces, because this is something that people need. And so you got to make sure, hey, everyone has support, from the 1 to maybe the hundreds that you get connected.
Get support. Okay. Number 2 is another S, stability.
Yeah. Everyone I meet needs stability. And this is where, all the pieces of who you are have got to be centered on a foundation that is firm. James 1:6-7 says, a doubtful mind will be as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. Every decision you then make will be uncertain. And so often, we've got to help our people have the stability that they need. And again, you look at what COVID's done. COVID has shaken the stabilities that we have known. And so that's why a lot of church people are so rocked by this pandemic, is because it took away something that they thought they had forever and ever. And so you need that foundation that will never change. And you got to ask yourself, what's the final authority in my life? Because if it's the church, then when the church is taken away, you're not going to feel stable. I just want to encourage you to read Psalm 119 and just look through all of the benefits that are given to us as believers, and, start building your foundation on that, and not just on what the church is always going to provide for you. Because when you look at first century Christians, they appreciated the gathering together, but they also, were working their foundation on Jesus and who he is. I saw a great Facebook posting, and this is when social media can be good. But from Matt Page, who is our director of Eurasia, that helps us in the network on the global side. But this post was: are you as passionate about sharing Jesus with people as you are about sharing your political opinions? Now, it's a little bit of a punch, but a lot of times it helps us calibrate. Where's our stability? Is it in our political party? Is it in our football team? Sorry, Derek. I mean, you and I got to learn from that one. But where's your stability at? So that's the second thing I would encourage you to walk through with your teams.
Number 3, self-expression.
Yeah, everybody I meet needs self-expression. And this is part of where we talk about in group life is you don't lead alone. Because when you use your giftedness, that produces value inside of you. And so you've got to help people in your small groups if you're the small group leader. You got to help people in your church if you're into leadership development. They've got to help find out where their giftedness is, because that's their self-expression that you want to tap into. And what you got to understand is that, when you look at Ephesians 2:10, it says, the gifts are to benefit. Your gifts, your spiritual gifts, are to help benefit others, and they will also benefit you when you use them. And they just aren't just for, one side or the other, but they're there to come together for the body. But a natural byproduct in you is that you start to feel valued. And you got to understand is that you'll never have a role that is 100% of your gifting. But the more you can find what you do to be the majority of your gifting, the happier you're going to be. And so part of what you got to be able to do is everybody needs self-expression. If you want refreshment to rise inside of your leadership, inside your small groups, inside your church, it's helping people find how do they best self-express, and then let them pour their life into that inside your church. At Saddleback, we use an acrostic called SHAPE, which is in our class 301. It's in our curriculum. Also, just to help people discover their shape, where their spiritual gifts, their hearts, their abilities, their personalities, and their experiences all shape together for them to have perfect self-expression.
So far we've got support, stability, self-expression, and on to number 4, significance.
Yeah. And this is everybody I meet needs significance. And this is, a full schedule versus a fulfilled schedule. And this is where people need purpose. And so much of our human nature is thriving for success, but they quickly find out that, when Christ isn't in the center of that, the significance can be low or very hollow, or their success can be very hollow. And part of what you want to be able to do is help them find that significance that they're longing for. And part of, I love going after busy people. I love going after people that you would never, ever think could contribute, because when they start to use their self-expression that we talked about in the point before, and you help them dial it into something that is focusing on the eternal side of, their life, which is, the life, beyond their living here on this planet, that they can play a role in something that will outlast them. And that's the beauty of the small group network. We're not doing this for us right now. We're doing this to live beyond everybody that is in current leadership in the network, but we're doing it, because we want to have significance to help the kingdom out. And so that's where you've got to be helping people understand, are your eyes set low, or are they set on the horizon of what the big payoff is going to be in eternity? And we call those destiny changers. And we love seeing people that are excited about changing people's destiny because of what role they're playing in the network, in your small group ministry, in their small group, or wherever they're at in your church.
And number 5, satisfaction.
Yeah. And satisfaction kind of plays into the leadership learning piece we had on pies. Your satisfaction will rise when all 4 aspects, your physical side, your intellectual side, your emotional side, and your spiritual side, when those are all in alignment, you're going to start to discover that, there will be that synergy that will happen from the alignment that will just boost your satisfaction. And so one of the reasons why we went through that leadership learning of pies is so that you could apply it right here to the satisfaction piece. So again, think through everybody I meet when you're talking about, any topic that people are facing, but when you meet people, they're going to need support. They're going to need stability. They're going to need self-expression. They're going to need significance, and they're going to need satisfaction. You get that boiled into your small group ethos. You get that into the small group ministry ethos. You get that into your church ethos. And you're going to find that, in the midst of a pandemic that's driving everybody to lean into substance pieces, whether it be alcohol or drugs or whatever, you name the topic. They can be things, I joke about college football. It could be that. It could be professional football. They're pulling their lives into something else that can't focus on what's going to quench their thirst that is before them. So
that is your trending topic for this amazing Inside Saddleback show. Hey, a big thanks again to all of you guys for wanting to spend part of your day with us. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, goodbye.
See you there, everybody.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And to dive in deeper, get more resources, or join the Small Group Network, just head over to smallgroupnetwork.com.